Life is not easy. Life is not a smooth, straight path. It's a winding road filled with unexpected turns, steep climbs, and sudden drops. Every one of us at some point will face adversity. It might come as failure, loss, rejection, or hardship that shakes us to our core. But here's the truth. Adversity is not your enemy. It's your greatest teacher. The struggles you face today are shaping the strength you'll carry tomorrow. The question isn't if you'll face challenges, it's how you'll rise above them. Think about the most resilient people in history. Soldiers, athletes, inventors, leaders, none of them became great because life was easy. They became great because life was hard, and they refused to stay down. Thomas Edison failed 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. Oprah Winfrey overcame poverty and abuse to become a media icon. Adversity doesn't discriminate, but resilience does. It favors those who choose to fight back. Resilience isn't something you're born with, it's something you build like a muscle. It grows stronger every time you push through difficulty. Every setback is an opportunity to prove to yourself that you are tougher than you think. When you feel like quitting, remember, diamonds are formed under pressure. The most beautiful transformations happen in the darkest moments. Your struggles are not a sign of weakness. They are proof that you are still in the game, still fighting, still growing. So today, I want to talk to you about overcoming adversity and building unshakable resilience. Because the world doesn't reward those who avoid challenges. It rewards those who conquer them. Whether you're facing personal struggles, professional setbacks, or emotional battles, this is your moment to rise. Let's dive into how you can turn adversity into your greatest advantage.
Let me take you back to 1995.
A young, struggling single mother sat in a small Edinburgh cafe, scribbling furiously on a notepad while her baby daughter slept beside her. She was broke, depressed, and had just been through a painful divorce. Doctors had diagnosed her with clinical depression, and she felt like a failure. But she kept writing page after page, fueled by nothing but sheer determination. That woman was J.K. Rowling, and those scribbles became Harry Potter, a series that would later inspire millions and make her one of the most successful authors in history. But here's what most people forget. Before her breakthrough, 12 different publishers rejected her manuscript. 12. Imagine if she had given up after the 10th rejection, or the 5th, or the 1st. That's the thing about adversity. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care about your background, your dreams, or how hard you've worked. It shows up uninvited. Whether you're a single mother on welfare, an athlete with a career-ending injury, or a student who just failed an exam. But here's the truth that changes everything. Adversity is inevitable, but defeat is optional. The difference between those who crumble and those who rise comes down to one word: resilience. It's not about avoiding the storm, it's about learning to dance in the rain. Think about the last time life knocked you down. Maybe it was a job rejection that made you question your worth. Maybe it was a betrayal that left you wondering if you could ever trust again. Maybe it was a loss so painful you didn't think you could move forward. You're not alone. Every person in this room has faced moments where the weight of the world felt unbearable. But here's what I want you to remember. Those moments don't define you. What defines you is what you do next. Do you stay down or do you rise? Do you see yourself as a victim of circumstance? Or do you recognize that within you lies the power to rewrite your story? Resilience isn't some magical trait reserved for the lucky few. It's a choice, a mindset, a habit built through small acts of courage. It's the decision to get out of bed when depression tries to keep you under the covers. It's the strength to send one more job application after 20 rejections. It's the audacity to love again after heartbreak. Every time you choose to keep going, you're not just surviving adversity, you're building a version of yourself that no challenge can break. Look at nature. A bamboo tree spends years growing roots underground before it shoots up 90 feet in just weeks. During those early years, there's no visible progress, just relentless, unseen growth. And when the storm comes, the bamboo bends but never snaps. That's resilience. Your struggles today are like those roots. Deep, necessary work that will one day propel you to heights you can't yet imagine. The setbacks, the rejections, the failures, they're not stopping you, they're preparing you. So let me ask you, what's the adversity you're facing right now? Is it fear, doubt, failure? Whatever it is, I need you to hear this. You are stronger than you think. The very fact that you're still here, still fighting, still breathing, proves it. Resilience isn't about being unbreakable. It's about being brave enough to piece yourself back together every time life shatters you. And with every piece you put back, you become a little more unshakable, a little more fearless, a little more unstoppable. This is your moment. The world needs people who've been tested by fire and came out stronger. People who know what it's like to fall and refuse to stay down. People like you. Because the greatest stories ever told weren't written in comfort. They were forged in adversity. And your story, it's just getting started. Let me tell you a story about a 16-year-old boy who dreamed of playing basketball for his high school team. He practiced relentlessly, but when the roster was posted, his name wasn't on it. The coach told him he wasn't good enough. That boy was Michael Jordan. Devastated, he went home, locked himself in his room, and cried. But here's what he did next. He didn't quit. He didn't let that rejection define him. Instead, he used it as fuel. Every morning, he woke up before dawn to practice. Every setback became a setup for a comeback. By the time he retired, he'd won 6 NBA championships and became a global icon. But here's the kicker. Decades later, Jordan still credits that moment of failure as the spark that ignited his greatness. Adversity didn't break him, it revealed him. It showed him and the world what he was truly made of. That's the power of resilience. It's not just about surviving hardship. It's about letting hardship sculpt you into someone stronger, wiser, and more determined. Challenges don't block your path. They are the path. Think of adversity as a ruthless but brilliant teacher. It doesn't give you the answers. It forces you to discover them. When you're pushed to your limits, you learn what you're capable of. When you're stripped of excuses, you find creativity. When you're knocked down, you develop the courage to stand up again. Jordan's story isn't unique. Every person who's ever achieved something extraordinary has a version of it. The moment they could have quit but didn't. The failure that became their foundation. But here's the catch. Resilience starts in your mind. It's not just about what happens to you. It's about how you frame it. Psychologist Carol Dweck spent decades studying this. She found that people with a fixed mindset believe their abilities are set in stone. They see failure as proof they're not good enough. But those with a growth mindset believe they can improve through effort. They see failure as feedback. Imagine 2 students who fail a math test. The fixed mindset student says, "I'm terrible at math," and gives up. The growth mindset student says, "I need to study differently," and tries again. One mindset builds walls, the other builds bridges. This isn't just theory, it's a choice you make every day. Let's try something. Think of a failure you've experienced. Maybe you bombed a presentation, got passed over for a promotion, or faced a personal betrayal. Now, instead of seeing it as a dead end, reframe it as a detour. Ask yourself, what did this teach me? How did it make me braver, smarter, or more adaptable? That time you embarrassed yourself in front of a crowd, it taught you humility and maybe the importance of preparation. That relationship that fell apart, it showed you what you truly value in a partner. Even the smallest setbacks are classrooms in disguise. Here's the truth. Resilience isn't a personality trait. It's a skill. And like any skill, it gets stronger the more you practice. Every time you choose to see adversity as a teacher rather than a tormentor, you're flexing that muscle. Every time you replace "I can't" with "I can't yet," you're rewiring your brain for growth. It's not about ignoring the pain or pretending everything's fine. It's about acknowledging the struggle and saying, "This hurts, but I'll grow from it."
Take the blacksmith shaping a sword. He doesn't curse the fire. He uses it to temper the steel. He doesn't resent the hammer. He wields it to create strength. You are both the blacksmith and the steel. The challenges you face aren't here to destroy you. They're here to forge you. So the next time life throws you into the fire, remember, you've survived every bad day so far. You've learned, adapted, and kept going. That's not luck. That's resilience. And it's proof that you're already stronger than you think.
Now let's put this into action. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture a past failure, not as a stain on your story, but as a stepping stone. What did it teach you? How did it prepare you for where you are now? That's the growth mindset at work. That's resilience in motion. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to refuse to let fear have the final say. Because the greatest reward isn't avoiding adversity, it's discovering again and again that you have what it takes to overcome it. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing you'll never walk, never hold a loved one's hand, never experience the simple joy of running through a field. That was the reality for Nick Vujicic, born without arms or legs. Doctors called it a tragedy. His parents feared he'd live a life of dependency, but Nick, he saw it as a challenge to redefine what's possible. As a child, he battled depression and even attempted suicide. But one day, he made a choice. He would stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What now?" Today, he surfs, travels the world as a motivational speaker, and hugs his children with the nubs of his shoulders. His secret, embracing the struggle. He didn't waste energy fighting the pain of his condition. He channeled it into purpose. The greater the struggle, he says, the more glorious the triumph. That's the heart of resilience, understanding that short-term pain is the price of long-term growth. You don't overcome adversity by avoiding it. You overcome it by moving through it, one stubborn step at a time. But resilience isn't just a solo journey. Think of the African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. No one climbs a mountain without a team. When astronaut Chris Hadfield trained for space, he didn't just study physics. He leaned on mentors who'd survived zero gravity, bonded with crewmates, and relied on ground control to guide him. Adversity becomes lighter when shared. Maybe for you, it's a friend who listens without judgment, a teacher who sees your potential, or an online community that cheers you on. These connections aren't a sign of weakness. They're a superpower. Vulnerability invites support, and support fuels perseverance. Even Nick Vujicic credits his family and faith for helping him find his voice. Surround yourself with people who don't just sympathize with your struggles, but challenge you to grow through them. Now, let's talk about progress, because resilience isn't about grand, sweeping gestures. It's about tiny, relentless acts of courage. Take James Dyson, the inventor of the bagless vacuum. He spent 15 years creating 5,026 failed prototypes. 5,126. Most people would have quit after a dozen. But Dyson, he called each failure a lesson and kept tweaking. That's the magic of small wins. You don't need to fix everything at once. Did you meditate for 5 minutes today? Win. Did you send one email you've been avoiding? Win. Did you choose to get out of bed when your mind begged you to stay? Major win. Progress compounds. A river carves a canyon not by force but by consistency. Perfection is a myth. Persistence is the reality.
Here's the truth: adversity doesn't bow to grand plans. It bows to daily grit. Nick Vujicic didn't wake up one day suddenly fearless. He practiced gratitude until it became habit. James Dyson didn't revolutionize cleaning overnight. He embraced the grind of iteration. And you don't have to be unbreakable. You just have to be willing to bend without snapping. Lean into the struggle. Let others shoulder the weight when needed. And celebrate every flicker of progress. Remember, the tallest skyscrapers are built floor by floor. The longest journeys completed step by step. Your resilience isn't measured by how high you jump, but by how many times you get back up. So keep going. The world needs proof that storms don't last forever, and neither do you.
Picture this. A 65-year-old man drives across America, sleeping in his car, knocking on door after door with a pressure cooker in his trunk and a recipe for fried chicken. He'd been fired from jobs, survived the gas station fire that left him with third-degree burns, and watched his first restaurant go bankrupt. By most standards, he was a failure, but Colonel Harlan Sanders kept pitching his chicken recipe 1,009 times before finally hearing a yes. That single yes became Kentucky Fried Chicken, a global empire. What separated Sanders from the millions who quit? Grit. Psychologist Angela Duckworth, who spent years studying high achievers, defines grit as the marriage of passion and perseverance. It's not talent, IQ, or luck that predicts success. It's the willingness to keep showing up, day after day, even when progress feels invisible. Grit is the quiet voice that says, try again when the world shouts, give up. Here's the science. Duckworth's research at West Point Military Academy found that cadets who scored highest on grit tests, not physical strength or intelligence, were most likely to survive the brutal beast barracks training. Similarly, national spelling bee champions aren't the ones with the highest IQs. They're the ones who practice relentlessly even when they're bored or discouraged. Grit isn't glamorous. It's the sweat equity of success, the extra hour of practice when no one's watching, the decision to study instead of scroll, the choice to rebuild after life burns your plans to the ground. It's not about loving the struggle, but loving yourself enough to keep going through the struggle. Let's make this personal. Close your eyes for a moment. Fast forward 5 years. You're sitting across from your future self, a version of you who never gave up. What do they look like? How do they carry themselves? What's the pride in their eyes saying? Maybe they whisper, "Thank you for not quitting when the rejections piled up," or "Thank you for staying up late to finish the degree," or "Thank you for choosing forgiveness over bitterness." That future self isn't a stranger. They're the reward for your persistence today. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you're writing their story. Now let's bridge that future with action. Take out your phone or a scrap of paper. Write down one obstacle you've been avoiding, a difficult conversation, a project you've stalled, a habit you've struggled to break. Now circle it this week. That's your Everest. Break it into tiny steps. Send the first email, make the first call, practice for 10 minutes. Progress isn't about leaps, it's about leaning in when every fiber of you wants to lean out. Remember James Dyson's 520? He didn't wake up each morning thinking, "I need to invent a vacuum today." He thought, "I need to fix one flaw in the design." Small, stubborn efforts compound into revolution. The world will try to measure your worth by outcomes, a promotion, a diploma, a number on a scale, but true worth is measured in grit. Every time you choose persistence, you're declaring that your dreams are bigger than your doubts. Colonel Sanders wasn't born a legend, he became one through 1,009 acts of audacity. Your yes might be closer than you think. So this week, when that obstacle stares you down, stare back and say, "I've survived harder things. I am the product of every battle I've refused to lose." Then take the first step. The future you is already cheering. Let me leave you with this. Deep in the Utah desert, a young climber named Aron Ralston found himself trapped in a narrow canyon, his right arm pinned under an 800-pound boulder. For 5 days, he rationed sips of water, recorded farewell messages to his family, and faced the unthinkable, a choice between death and amputating his own arm with a dull pocket knife. On the 5th day, dehydrated and delirious, he did what seemed impossible. He broke his bones, cut through flesh, and freed himself. Crawling through the canyon, rappelling down a cliff, and hiking miles to safety, he survived. But here's what's most astonishing. Years later, Ralston called the ordeal a gift. Not because it was easy, but because it revealed a truth we all need to hear. You are stronger than you think. When everything in you screams, "I can't," your resilience whispers, "You must." That's the power of the human spirit. Ralston's story isn't just about survival, it's a metaphor for every challenge you'll ever face. We all have boulders in our lives, dreams that feel crushed, relationships that suffocate us, failures that pin us down. In those moments, we have the same choice: surrender to the weight or find the courage to break free. You might not be literally trapped in a canyon, but maybe you're trapped in a job that drains you, a cycle of self-doubt, or a grief that won't loosen its grip. Hear this. You have the same grit that saved Aron Ralston. It's in you right now, waiting to be unleashed. Think of the times you've already risen. The mornings you dragged yourself out of bed despite depression's gravity. The nights you worked late to provide for your family when exhaustion said quit. The apologies you offered when pride said stay silent. You've already faced 1,000 small boulders, and here you are, still breathing, still fighting, still alive. That's not luck, that's resilience in action. And if you've done it before, you can do it again. But resilience isn't just about grand heroic acts. It's in the mundane daily choices. The decision to forgive when you'd rather resent, to hope when evidence says despair, to try again when logic says retreat. Aron didn't start by cutting his arm. He started by choosing to look for a tool, to ration his water, to believe against all odds that survival was possible. Your breakthrough might not require a knife, but it will require the same stubborn faith. Faith that the next step matters even when the finish line is invisible. So, here's your challenge. When life knocks you down, and it will you lie there paralyzed by the weight of what's happened? Or will you rise armed with the knowledge that every struggle is a setup for a comeback? This isn't about ignoring the pain or pretending adversity doesn't hurt. It's about acknowledging the boulder, then asking, what's my next move? Maybe it's a phone call to mend a broken relationship. Maybe it's signing up for the course you've been too scared to take. Maybe it's simply standing up right now and declaring, I'm not done yet. The world is full of Aron Ralstons, ordinary people who've done extraordinary things because they refuse to let their circumstances have the final word. The single parent working 2 jobs to put their kid through college. The cancer survivor running a marathon. The immigrant rebuilding a life in a new country. These aren't superheroes. They're people like you who chose to see adversity not as a tombstone but as a stepping stone. You were born for this. For the late nights and early mornings, the tears and the triumphs, the setbacks and the comebacks. Every scar you carry is proof of your strength. Every fear you face is a badge of courage. And every time you rise, you give others permission to do the same. So go ahead, stare down your boulder. Whether it's a mountain or a molehill, remember the power to overcome it lies in your hands, your heart, your refusal to quit. Aron Ralston's story didn't end in that canyon. Yours doesn't have to end here either. The question isn't, can you rise? It's, will you? The world is waiting for your answer. Adversity doesn't last forever, but resilience does. The struggles you face today are preparing you for the victories of tomorrow. Every time you choose to get back up, you're writing a story of courage that will inspire others. Remember, the oak tree was once just an acorn that held its ground through countless storms. You too are growing stronger with every challenge. Resilience isn't about never falling. It's about rising every time you do. So the next time life throws you to the ground, land on your back. Because if you can look up, you can get up. And if you can get up, you can keep going. The world needs your strength, your fight, your unbreakable spirit. Now go out there and prove to yourself what you're truly made of. The obstacles in your path are not roadblocks. They are stepping stones. Rise, fight, win. Your greatest comeback starts today. Final rallying cry. What's your adversity? And more importantly, what's your plan to overcome it?